Well, hello and welcome. My name is Guy Stevens here with the Alliance Against Seclusion and Restraint, and I am here today with another In the News segment. So, In the News is where we share segments from the local news and talk about them, usually stories that have to do with restraint, seclusion, suspension, expulsion, corporal punishment, often all the things being done to kids, very often in the name of behavior. So we have another story for you here today, and I'm going to share a little bit of this, and we'll talk about it as it goes as well. So let me go ahead and pull up our story here, and I'm just going to get this started.
Two parents in Dayton, Ohio are sharing some disturbing video as they demand charges be filed after what happened to their son at school. The video shows a teacher's aide striking their nonverbal 3-year-old, knocking.
Wow. What did we actually see there? We saw a staff member chasing a child, hit them in the head, and knock them over. Unbelievable.
Him down, then picking him up by his feet. Braylon Tootle has autism. Braylon's parents say they were told later.
This is absolutely unbelievable, and unfortunately, it is something that happens more often than we realize. These kinds of things are being done in schools to kids. This particular event happened to be caught on a camera, happened to be shared with the parents, and happened to be made available. But so many times these things happen, and we're totally unaware. This is absolutely inappropriate. This should never happen, and unfortunately, these things do happen in school. Let's listen to the rest of the story here.
That day that something had happened, but they didn't know he had been hit until they requested the video. The family is calling for the teacher's aide who
didn't know the child had been hit until they requested the video. And herein lies the problem. Very often systems are not very good at keeping themselves accountable for what's happening. If my child were hit by a staff member at school, absolutely, I would deserve to know right away. I would need to know right away. My child might be coming home to me with substantial trauma after something like that happening. So more needs to be done here for sure.
Since been fired to face charges.
And of course, it's a appropriate thing that the staff member was let go. It certainly would be appropriate for them to face charges. This seems like a criminal act, and why law enforcement does not get involved in these things more often, I'll never understand. There's a lot of issues that go to what the problem is here. And of course, the problem often starts with staff that don't have the right training, that don't have the right background. But all things aside, any human being, to chase down, hit a child in the head and knock them over, then carry them back by their legs, you just have to wonder what's going on.
Say something to a kid that's nonverbal, you don't get a response. So we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have a clue what was going on.
Our kids need help. Society needs to be educated on autism, and they need to be trained to deal with these kids.
Wow. Non-speaking child. And of course, this happens a lot. We know that a lot of kids that are restrained, secluded, these are often kids that are non-speaking, often children that are autistic. And of course, not all children can come home and tell you what happened during their day. We often have parents that are contacting us who have children that have come home with mysterious bruises or injuries. And again, haven't been told what happened. And, I appreciate the parents here, kind of speaking up and hopefully doing something to bring about change. This is not okay. Mom said something there that was, interesting about people learning to work with, autistic children. And, frankly, some of these things should not have to be taught, right? Some of this is about being human. And of course, trying to understand that when a person is in distress, that their prefrontal cortex is not available and they're not making rational decisions. That's why we have to go upstream. That's why we have to better support not only the kids in our classrooms, but also teachers and staff, and make sure that people do have adequate training and background.
The school superintendent says the district will be taking additional measures to make sure all employees are properly trained and qualified for their positions in an effort to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to hear the superintendent's taking action. Absolutely, something has to happen. This is not okay. And this doesn't happen in isolation. Very rarely do we find these events where it was just kind of an outlier and not going to happen again. So again, just to kind of review this story, what we saw here is an autistic child that was running down a hallway, that was smacked in the head by a staff member, knocked to the ground, and then carried back by his feet. These kinds of things should never happen. Of course, we need to make sure that people have training and resources they need, but this is absolutely inexcusable. This should never be done to a child, and this is why we need to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure these things don't continue to happen. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this segment. Really appreciate you joining me here today, and look forward to having you join us again in the future. Thanks so much. Take care.